Hollywood's starting to rally around Alec Baldwin as he faces half a decade behind bars. The soon-to-be charged actor seen for the first time in exclusive Fox News video. Baldwin is vowing to beat the rap on involuntary manslaughter and firearm offenses, and even finish the movie in the process. Production on Rust will reportedly continue, with updated safety measures and a ban on live ammunition and working weapons. And while he deals with that, support is rolling in. The Screen Actors Guild is defending Baldwin by calling the charges wrong and uninformed, and The View's Joy Behar is backing him up, but she screwed up a key detail on who's prosecuting him.
The DA who is indicting him, or whatever the legal term is right now, she's a big Republican. I'm only saying this because Alec Baldwin is a target for Republicans. They cannot stand him.
Behar later corrected herself. The DA prosecuting Baldwin is a Democrat. Meanwhile, there are growing questions on whether Alec Baldwin is trying to hide anything. Listen to what the prosecutors told the judge about his phone records.
We did analyze the phone records, and actually we're continuing to analyze them. And there were some things missing. The problem is we're not sure whether it was intentional on Baldwin's part. We are continuing to investigate that.
He did direct the assistant to delete an archive, correct?
That is in his text messages, correct, and that is part of our investigation.
Okay, Judge, I want to come to you first. Anything about the phone records you'd like to add, or about the interview?
Well, he directed his assistant to delete archives. We're not sure what it was. And to the DA's credit, when she said, you know, we're not really sure. She's not just pointing the blame, you know, just as a matter of being a prosecutor. Oh, yeah, he's wrong. She's being very, I think, very balanced about it. But I got to tell you, Joy Behar, you know, Alec Baldwin is a target for Republicans. You know what, Joy? The only target here was Helena Hutchins, who had a gun pointed at her and a trigger pulled, and she ended up dead. That's the target here. And let me tell you something else about SAG and the Screen Actors Guild and all this nonsense that the prosecutors are wrong and uninformed. They don't know the first thing about the law. They don't know the first thing about prosecution. All they know is these bi-coastal elites. Oh, no, it's a movie set. What? You're now protected? You can commit a criminal act on a movie set? You can take someone and kill them? Let me tell you something. Every state has regulations for making movies. There are standards of care. He did not follow it. The DA made it very clear. They're indicting him as both actor and producer. That means they didn't indict his corporation because they're indicting him as a producer for having shoddy, unsafe setting there and situation that risked the life of a woman in the middle of her life and the mother of a young child. They're making it left and right. It's not left and right. It's right and wrong. It's life and death.
I actually was surprised at that comment because I felt that when this happened, there was just outpouring of devastation about what had happened, and no one was really going after Alec Baldwin for his politics, and this at all is too big of a tragedy for that. But Tyrus, I know you've been on a number of movie sets. Do you have anything to say about the SAG?
So the Joy Behar thing, I don't know who's writing for her because she's clearly reading the notes and then just spewing stuff. I mean, I think I'd be, as many times as she said false stuff, just made it up, and then comes back later on when no one's watching and apologizes, at some point, when you're going to pull her from the air? Because she just spews. That's a horrible thing to say about somebody. But when this is gross negligence. This is horrible. There's no excuse for this. Like, the focus should be on that woman lost her life. But when you look at, like, horrible accidents, and that's what I kind of look at this, but the gunsmith, when they hand you a gun and they say it's cold, they have their, and when you come into work, Judge, there's the sides. And it says, there was no bullets or blanks or anything should have been in the gun because it was a non-shooting scene. The gun was just a prop. So when she did her inspection, there should be nothing in the chambers. Now, this wasn't a Glock where you might not see it. It's got chambers.
You look at the cylinder,
so
you look
pop it open.
Chamber.
Like, I hung out with when I did my movies, I usually hang out with the crew guys. And the gunsmith guys, they didn't play. You couldn't even touch their guns if you wanted to. And then when they present it to you, they go click, click, cold, hand it to you. Then when you get it back, they check it again and they put it away. So when the question really needs to be, and this is my Angela Lansbury, who had live bullets on set? Where did they come from? And you can do ballistics. There should be a serial number on the bullet. You can trace it back to where it was bought from, who bought it, and then you can find out. And that's the reason you need to ask that individual needs to be the person that they really go after. Now, because he's a producer and he's wearing that hat, he's the executive producer, he does share some responsibility, but that's what the civil thing was about. So somebody needs to be held accountable for her death. But I'm not sure if I think it should all be on Alex on this one.
But Alec Baldwin had an obligation in handling that weapon to look down the chamber, to check the cylinder. That's how you're trained. And for him to point it at her and pull the trigger, that is negligence. They're not saying it was intentional. They're not even saying it was reckless. They're saying it was negligent.
Well, Judge, I think that goes to show that people like Alec Baldwin they're arrogant enough that they don't think they need to know real gun safety, right? So there is a difference between being an actor and using firearms, real firearms, as props on set. But as a gun owner, you know, the rule is there are no accidents, there's only negligence. And if I were an actor and I was handed a gun by the armorer, I would still check it because ultimately I'm the one responsible for what is in my hands. When you look at the case, it looks a lot like there was, as I said, a lot of arrogance from Alec Baldwin as the executive producer, a lack of professionalism on a number of levels. There's reports they were live firing rounds the day before and playing around. That's something that would never fly when it comes to regular gun ownership outside of a movie set. And so his standard is, and the lawyers for him are trying to say it's someone else's fault. But when it comes down to what people listen to in court, they'll have to decide whether he's responsible or not because he had the gun in his hand.
I know, Jesse, that you think a plea deal is what he's going to be going for, if that's something that's offered to him. I do want to stick on this point about how the live rounds got there, though, because when he did one of his interviews, I think with Stephen Obels, or might have been the Anderson Cooper one, he said someone is responsible, but it's not me, which seems, now that we know more about the evidence, that he's talking about whoever it is brought live bullets. We have that side. Great.
But someone put a live bullet in a gun, a bullet that wasn't even supposed to be on the property. Someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but I know it's not me.
So do you think that that's what they will be if they're going to court, that they're going to rely on that?
They will, but this is also in the court of public opinion, and he's laying that defense out right now, and he's trying to strike the balance between this is a horrible tragedy, this woman lost her life, she has a family, I have a family, my heart is breaking. At the same time, it's the armorer's fault. She handed me a loaded gun. We hired her for one reason.
One job.
To not hand me a loaded gun. And she didn't do that, so it's all her fault. But he's kind of antagonizing the DA. And you can imagine he's already on thin ice because he deleted evidence, or his Johnny deleted evidence. And now he's got a big mouth, and he's already done 2 network interviews, and his lawyer's probably got a big mouth, and they're probably trying to gain leverage before the plea negotiations, or even if it's stupid enough to go to trial with the jury. But, you know, the wife's out there wearing the empathy sweatshirt. I mean, you can see it all playing out. You got celebrities coming in, and the guy has friends in high places. So you don't know what kind of things he's going to pull off, but he just has to be very careful, because if you push too far, that plea deal disappears.
Yeah, he should stop talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hiding his face.
But wear a jacket, the envelope, we knew it was you. Horrible.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.